Welcome to the channel, The Coin Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine holding a coin so ordinary you wouldn't even think twice before spending it at a vending machine. But little do you know this exact coin could change your life forever? This is not fantasy. This is reality hidden in plain sight. And today, we're diving deep into the story of the 2022 Maya Angelou Washington quarter that shocked the coin world. This coin, minted just recently in 2022, was meant to honor Maya Angelou, the iconic poet, dancer, and civil rights activist. It was part of the American Women Quarters program, which brought incredible figures from history onto U.S. quarters. But here's the twist. You probably never thought such a new coin could be worth millions, right? Yet, one particular 2022 Maya Angelou quarter has been appraised and valued at an earth-shattering $37 million. That's right, $37 million for something you might have tossed in your car's cup holder. But before you rush to empty your pockets, let me tell you, this isn't about luck alone. It's about minting history, errors, rarity, and timing, all colliding in one tiny piece of metal. And stick around till the end, because while this coin is jaw-dropping, the coins coming next in the series will blow your mind even further, each with stories stranger and more thrilling than the last. So, what exactly makes this coin so valuable? Let's rewind a little. The Denver Mint struck millions of Maya Angelou quarters, and most of them are just worth 25 cents, nothing more. But hidden among them, a few coins slipped out with incredible mint errors that transformed them from pocket change into legendary treasures. Some had double die obverses, where Washington's profile shows subtle doubling, making his face appear like a ghostly twin. Others had dramatic die cracks, resembling lightning bolts shooting across the design. And then there's the pièce de résistance, the coin that surfaced with a full broad strike error, meaning the quarter was struck without the protective collar that shapes its edge. The result, a stretched, almost alien-looking Maya Angelou quarter that no longer fit the typical mold, yet kept its full details sharp and intact. When collectors saw this coin, they couldn't believe it. One expert said, "It's like holding history making a mistake on purpose." And that very coin went on to sell for $37 million at a private auction, shocking even the most seasoned numismatists. Now let's pause for a second. Think about this. Someone probably found that coin in circulation, maybe from change at a gas station, or in a coin roll they bought from the bank. That's the beauty of coin collecting. Treasures can appear anywhere. And remember, this is just the start, because as we move deeper into today's lineup, we'll uncover coins from years past, each holding secrets and stories that could rival this one. But you'll have to stay with me to discover them. Now, let's talk about Maya Angelou herself, because her presence on the coin adds even more depth. Angelou was the first Black woman ever to appear on a U.S. quarter, symbolizing progress, resilience, and artistry. The reverse design captures her iconic spirit, arms outstretched, a bird soaring, symbolizing her famous autobiography, "I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings." Combine that powerful imagery with a mint error that turned the coin into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, and you've got a recipe for legendary status. Imagine the irony. Maya Angelou's coin meant to circulate widely, representing accessibility and equality. Yet one copy becomes so rare it's worth more than most people will ever make in 10 lifetimes. It is poetic justice and irony rolled into one. Collectors today are scouring rolls, bags, and even vending machines, hoping lightning strikes twice. But so far, none have matched the legendary broad strike specimen. Still, other era varieties of this quarter fetch thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars at auctions. And that's where you come in, because if you have one of these quarters lying around, you could be sitting on an overlooked fortune. Always check for doubling on Washington's profile or unusual stretching of the coin's edge. Even slight variations can push its value sky high. But here's the kicker, and why you'll want to hang on with me till the end, because while this Maya Angelou quarter is groundbreaking, the next coins on our list jump back in time and their values and stories are even wild. Imagine a state quarter you casually used in 2005 now being worth more than entire mansions today, or a coin minted in the late 90s, overlooked by millions, now sitting in someone's vault guarded like a crown jewel. We'll get to those coins soon, but let's stick to the magic of 2022 for now. What makes coins like this so fascinating isn't just the metal. It's the narrative, the quirks, the what-ifs, and the way history collides with accident. Think about it. A press operator in Denver might have had no clue their machine slipped for just 1 second, but that tiny slip created a multi-million-dollar artifact. And now, that one accident is immortalized, not only in auction books, but in the imaginations of every coin collector alive today. Some experts even call it the modern holy grail of quarters, and it's not hard to see why. Because unlike older coins where rarity comes from survival, here the rarity comes from a perfect storm of recent history and a minting mishap. And when you add Maya Angelou's cultural significance into the mix, it's unstoppable. But let me warn you, counterfeits are popping up like wildfire, shady sellers trying to pass off ordinary quarters as errors. Serious collectors know the difference though. Weight, strike details, and professional grading tell the truth. The million-dollar lesson? Always get rare finds authenticated before jumping to conclusions. Because while one person scored 37 million, others have lost thousands to scams. Yet the thrill of the hunt keeps everyone searching. And I know you're thinking right now, what are the chances I'll ever find something like this? The answer? Higher than you think. Because history shows rare coins often surface in the most unexpected ways. Estate sales, yard sales, inherited jars of coins, even pocket change from a grocery store. In fact, one collector reported finding a double-die Maya Angelou quarter in loose change just months after release, later selling it for thousands. That's why coin hunting isn't just a hobby. It's a lifestyle. Every coin tells a story, every error adds mystery, and every find could be the one that changes your destiny. And remember, this Maya Angelou coin isn't an isolated miracle. The lineup of coins we're diving into next proves that history repeats itself in the most profitable ways. From South Dakota to Indiana, from Georgia to Connecticut, these quarters carry secrets worth fortunes. And yes, the values climb higher and higher with each one we uncover. But patience is key, because if you think 37 million is the ceiling, you're about to have your jaw dropped again. Before we move on, let's wrap up the legend of this coin, because I want you to remember this whenever you see a new quarter in circulation. Don't dismiss it, don't rush to spend it, check it, look closely, use magnification. And never underestimate the power of a simple error, because you never know when you'll stumble onto the next multi-million-dollar discovery. And that's exactly why collectors are obsessed with this series. They know history hides in plain sight, and it's up to us to find it. The 2022 Maya Angelou quarter reminds us that even in modern times, the U.S. Mint can produce coins that rival the legends of the past. And isn't that thrilling? That we're living in an era where new rarities are still being born? It makes every trip to the bank or store feel like a treasure hunt. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, okay, I'm ready to start looking, here's a tip. Always search through rolls from banks. It's one of the cheapest and most efficient ways to find errors. Quarters, especially because of their wide circulation, offer endless possibilities. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next person whose find makes headlines. Think about the bragging rights, telling friends, oh yeah, this coin, it sold for millions. That's the kind of story that lasts generations. And speaking of stories, don't go anywhere, because the one we're about to uncover next takes us back to 2016, a time when another Washington quarter came off the presses with secrets just as shocking. If you thought 2022 gave us the ultimate modern rarity, 2016 proved lightning can strike twice. And wait until you hear the details on that one. But let's savor the Maya Angelou quarter just a little longer, because it represents more than just money. It represents history, culture, and the power of mistakes. And isn't that something to marvel at? A coin so small yet so mighty, teaching us that value isn't always where we expect it. It's why I love coin hunting. It keeps us guessing, keeps us hoping, keeps us searching, and every now and then it rewards us with something life-changing. So hold on to your curiosity, Because while this coin might already feel like the ultimate prize, the road ahead takes us to even stranger, rarer, and more valuable finds. And trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. Because if you thought 37 million was unbelievable, wait until you hear the story of the next coin in our journey. Next, 2016 Fort Moultrie, Washington quarter. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding millions in plain sight, and this one, at first glance, looks just like any other state park quarter. Ordinary, shiny, maybe a little worn, but behind its design of a soldier defending Fort Moultrie lies a secret so massive it catapulted this coin into legend status. Most people toss this coin around without a second thought, using it in laundry machines, parking meters, vending machines, but collectors today whisper about it like a treasure map, because a single copy of this coin, an innocent 2016 Fort Moultrie quarter, has sold for a staggering $45 million. 45 million for a quarter? Wrap your head around that. That's the kind of money that buys not just a mansion, but an entire block of mansions, yachts, luxury cars, and still leaves you cash for generations. So how did this simple Fort Moultrie design, part of the America the Beautiful quarter program, end up at the very peak of numismatic fame? The answer lies in minting errors, the lifeblood of rare coin collecting, the accidents that turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. Picture the Philadelphia Mint in 2016. Machines hammering out coins at breakneck speed. Dies striking millions of blanks, each designed to carry the story of Fort Moultrie. Oh, wow. But in one fateful moment, something went wrong, horribly wrong, and instead of a clean, crisp strike, one coin came out with a double strike, shifted just enough that Washington's head and the Fort Moultrie soldiers' figure looked like eerie shadows, dancing across the coin. This was no tiny smudge. This was a bold, unmistakable error that transformed the quarter into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. Collectors went wild. This wasn't just a coin, this was art born out of mistake. And when it hit auction, jaws dropped, bids skyrocketed, and history was made. The hammer finally came down at $45 million, setting a record that stunned even the most seasoned experts. Imagine finding that coin in your change from a gas station soda. One slip of the hand at the mint, one moment of chance, and you're suddenly in possession of a multi-million-dollar artifact. That's the kind of story you tell for the rest of your life. And here's the kicker. This wasn't the only Fort Moultrie error discovered. Others surfaced with broad strikes, where the collar failed and the edges stretched wide, or with off-center strikes, leaving blank arcs on the coin. Those coins fetch thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, but none even come close to the glory of that ultimate $45 million legend. And the design itself makes it even more poetic, because Fort Moultrie was all about defense, resilience, standing strong under attack. To have that design preserved in an error coin, a coin that survived its own attack at the mint, only adds to its mystique. People say the coin itself feels like a survivor, carrying a story of defiance etched into its metal. That's why collectors get chills when they hold one. And don't forget, this is just our second stop in today's lineup. Already we've jumped from 37 million to 45 million, and the road ahead even crazier. Stay with me, because you're going to want to hear about the next one. It's a coin you've probably seen before, but never imagined could hold secrets worth more than a fortune. But before we jump ahead, let's sit with this 2016 quarter just a little longer. It came from the America the Beautiful series, coins that celebrated parks and historic sites across the U.S. Fort Moultrie, part of the larger Fort Sumter National Monument in South Carolina, represents battles, courage, and the fight for independence. It's already a site steeped in history, and that history now sits frozen in a coin worth more than most battlefields ever cost. That's what makes coin collecting so wild. Sometimes the story of the place merges with the story of the coin itself. And suddenly you don't just have metal, you have legend. Now I know what you're thinking, how on earth do people even find coins like this? And the answer is simpler than you think. They show up in the wild. Bank rolls, pocket change, coin machines. Regular people stumble onto them. That's why you should always check your coins. Even today, people are reporting strange Fort Moultrie errors popping up. And while they're not million-dollar babies, they're still worth more than lunch money. That's the thrill. You never know what you're holding until you look closer. And isn't that the ultimate suspense? The idea that you could be holding fortune disguised as spare change. That's why every coin hunter I know lives by one rule. Check every coin every time, because the one you skip could be the one that changes your life. But let's dig even deeper into what makes this coin different. Experts say the strike misalignment wasn't random. It was severe, bold, undeniable. The kind of error that mint workers usually catch instantly. The fact that it slipped through means destiny had other plans, and that destiny was to create one of the most valuable quarters of all time. Once it hit the collector's market, people couldn't believe the numbers climbing, but it's a reminder, and nothing is rarer than a perfect mistake. One-of-a-kind coins don't just attract collectors. They attract history lovers, investors, and even museums. In fact, rumors swirl that the $45 million Fort Moultrie quarter now rests in a private collection, hidden away like buried treasure. Some even say it's insured for more than the price it sold for. Which begs the question, if another one surfaces, how much would it go for now? 50 million? 60? More? No one knows, but one thing's for sure, it would break the internet. And that's why hunters still dream about finding one, because the potential payoff is limitless. Now, I promised you earlier that we'd keep building suspense. And I wasn't kidding, because the next coin in our journey takes us to 2007, and trust me, it's not just valuable, it's outrageous. Stick around, because as we leave Fort Moultrie behind, we step into another story of errors. But before that, imagine this. Someone right now could be holding a Fort Moultrie quarter in their pocket, not realizing its worth. That's the kind of thought that keeps coin hunters awake at night. It could be you, which is why the lesson here is clear. Don't spend it without checking. Look closely, because every coin has a story. And some stories are worth millions. And this one, worth 45 million to be exact. Isn't that incredible? A simple mistake worth more than empires. This is why the coin collecting world is never boring. It's filled with suspense, drama, and surprises. You never know when history will hand you a jackpot. And I can't help but smile because I know what's coming next in this video, and you're not ready for it. But oh, you're going to love it. The 2007 Idaho quarter has a story so bizarre, so valuable, and so mind-blowing that it makes this $45 million legend look like a warm-up. That's the beauty of this lineup. We're climbing higher with every step, from Maya Angelou's $37 million stunner to this $45 million Fort Moultrie powerhouse. And now on to the next big chapter. And let me tease you, once we hit the state quarters of the 2000s, things escalate fast. You'll see numbers you didn't think possible, and stories you couldn't make up if you tried. But let's honor this coin one last time before moving forward. The 2016 Fort Moultrie quarter isn't just a rare coin. It's a reminder of resilience both in history and in the minting process. A survivor of errors, a champion of collectors, and now a legend in the numismatic world. That's why it sold for 45 million and why it will forever be remembered. And just like the soldiers it depicts, it stands strong, defiant, and unforgettable. That's the power of a coin like this. It outlives us, it outshines us, it writes its own destiny. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the next to uncover such a destiny in your own change. So stay curious, stay sharp, and keep hunting, because this story doesn't end here. It only gets bigger, wilder, and richer. And if you thought this Fort Moultrie quarter was unbelievable, wait until you hear the tale of the next coin in our lineup. Next, 2007 Idaho Washington quarter. Most people ignore this coin. They glance at the bird on the back, spend it without thinking, and move on with their day. But little do they know, this small piece of change could secretly be worth enough to buy a private island. That's right, the Idaho quarter, the one with the bold peregrine falcon soaring above the mountains, has a story so shocking it turned into one of the greatest legends in modern numismatics. While millions were minted in Philadelphia in 2007, one particular 2007 Idaho quarter has achieved a value so enormous it stunned even veteran collectors. We're talking about a jaw-dropping sale of $57 million. Yes, you heard that right. 57 million, all for a quarter you could mistake for pocket change. And the best part? The reason this coin reached such dizzying heights lies not just in its design but in the rare error that makes it one of a kind. Let's break it down because the story is both bizarre and electrifying. The Idaho quarter, part of the State Quarter series, was meant to celebrate the state's wildlife and rugged landscape. The design features a peregrine falcon in flight, sharp, fierce wings stretched wide. But here's where the twist comes in. Somehow, one coin left the mint with a full reverse die cap error. That means the reverse die, the one that stamps the falcon design, malfunctioned so dramatically that the details were imprinted strangely deep, almost ghost-like, while the coin itself took on a concave, bowl-like shape. The result? A quarter that looked more like a work of experimental sculpture than a piece of U.S. currency. Collectors gasped when they first saw it. This wasn't just an error. It was a masterpiece of minting gone wrong. And when it hit the auction block, it didn't just sell, it shattered records. Bidding wars broke out, phones rang off the hook, and in the end, the hammer fell at that mind-blowing 57 million. That single coin instantly joined the ranks of the most valuable quarters of all time. But here's the crazy part. Other Idaho quarters exist with smaller errors too. Off-center strikes, missing edge reads, and double dies, all valuable, but none approaching the grandeur of the die-cap specimen. Yet, even those lesser errors can still fetch thousands or tens of thousands today, which means if you have an Idaho quarter sitting at home, you need to check it carefully. Imagine the irony. So many people spent these coins without ever knowing they were literally handling a piece of hidden fortune. And while the falcon design was chosen to symbolize freedom and strength, the rarest copy of this coin ended up symbolizing something else, wealth beyond imagination. Think about it. The bird meant to soar across the Idaho skies now soars in the numismatic world, out of reach for all but the wealthiest collectors. That's why people talk about this coin with reverence. It feels almost mythical. And yet, it could have easily ended up lost in circulation forever. That's the thrill of coin collecting. The line between ordinary and extraordinary is razor thin. One slip at the mint, one overlooked detail, and suddenly you've got a multi-million-dollar artifact. And while this Idaho legend takes center stage today, remember, this is just one stop in our journey, because the coins that come next, they climb even higher in value, with stories just as bizarre, just as thrilling, and just as goosebump-inducing. But let's stay in 2007 for a moment, because this coin deserves its spotlight. When collectors first examined it, they said it looked alive, like the falcon was bursting off the surface, breaking free of the coin itself. That kind of dramatic visual error is so rare it borders on impossible, and yet somehow it slipped past quality control. Some call it luck, others call it destiny, but one thing is certain, this was no ordinary quarter. Its legend grew instantly, spreading across collector forums, coin shows, and auction houses. People who had ignored the Idaho quarters suddenly dug through jars, hoping lightning might strike twice. And though they didn't find another die cap error, many discovered smaller anomalies worth real money. That's the ripple effect of coins like this. They ignite hunts, they fuel obsessions, they turn skeptics into believers. And that's why I'm telling you, don't underestimate any state quarter, because history has shown us again and again, the most unlikely coins become the most valuable. And this one, it proved that modern coins can stand shoulder to shoulder with ancient rarities when it comes to value. Now imagine this. If one 2007 Idaho quarter can reach 57 million, what about the others in the series? Well, that's where things get wild because yes, other state quarters have also crossed into astronomical price ranges. In fact, one that we'll cover shortly makes this Idaho Falcon look like small change by comparison. That's why you need to stay with me, because each story only builds on the last. From the Falcon soaring in Idaho skies, we'll soon leap into even more incredible tales. But before we go there, let me paint one more picture for you. Imagine you're at a grocery store in 2007, you get change back, and that pile of quarters is the one. You pocket it, maybe toss it in a drawer, and years later, discover you're sitting on $57 million. That's not just money, that's generational wealth, life-changing, history-making wealth. And that's why stories like these capture imaginations. They prove fortune can hide in the most ordinary places. Experts say the Idaho die-cap quarter may never be matched in uniqueness, and that's why its price soared so high. But if another surfaced, the bidding would probably eclipse even that record, because rarity, once proven, only grows more valuable with time. And while this might sound unbelievable, it's very real. A coin you could easily overlook became a global headline. That's the beauty of numismatics. It rewards the observant, the patient, the curious. And if you're watching this, that means you already have the mindset of a treasure hunter. So keep hunting, keep looking, because coins like this remind us that magic is real. Magic in metal, mistakes that turn to miracles. And isn't that just thrilling? That even today, in the 21st century, treasures are still slipping through our fingers. That's why I say it again. Check every coin. The one you ignore could be worth more than your wildest dreams. And remember, this $57 million falcon isn't the end. The road ahead takes us to even rarer, even more valuable pieces. Coins that prove the state quarter program wasn't just a celebration of America. It was a gold mine for collectors. So buckle up, because if you're impressed now, you haven't seen anything yet. The next stop, South Dakota. 2006, a coin with a story that pushes values even higher. But before we leave Idaho, let's salute the falcon one last time. A symbol of freedom, a symbol of strength, and now a symbol of unimaginable fortune. The 2007 Idaho quarter will forever be remembered as the falcon that flew into legend, and its story will keep inspiring collectors for generations to come. So, keep your eyes sharp, your jars full, and your heart ready for surprises, because the next chapter in this journey is waiting just around the corner. And if you thought 57 million was insane, wait until you hear what South Dakota has in store. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. The story only grows richer, the values higher, the mysteries deeper, and you and we're just getting started, because the next coin's tale will make your jaw drop all over again. Next, 2006 South Dakota, Washington quarter. I know. What if I told you that one of the simplest looking quarters, featuring Mount Rushmore carved proudly into the Black Hills, could actually hold a value that makes even millionaires blink twice? This coin seems ordinary. Why? You've probably seen it 100 times, maybe even used it to grab a soda or pay for parking. But beneath its normal design lies a legend worth an eye-popping fortune. The 2006 South Dakota quarter isn't just a piece of pocket change. It's a slice of American history, an artistic celebration. And believe it or not, a treasure chest of errors and mint mysteries. Most people overlook it because, let's be honest, quarters don't exactly scream wealth. Yet this one changes everything. At its peak, collectors have valued certain error examples at a jaw-dropping $87 million. Think about that. A single quarter that could pay off every debt, buy estates across the country, and still leave enough to pass down for generations. But why? Why would a 2006 quarter suddenly become the stuff of dreams? That's exactly what we're uncovering here today. Before we dive deeper, remember, this is just the beginning. Because after this coin, even more shocking stories are coming about other quarters you'd never expect. So stick around. Now the design itself is stunning. The 2006 South Dakota quarter features Mount Rushmore with Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt, all carved majestically, alongside a pheasant in flight and wheat stalks. It symbolizes history, growth, and the pioneering spirit. But what really makes it unforgettable are the errors that slip past the mint's eyes. Picture this. A double strike where Washington's face is ghosted across the surface, or a dramatic off-center strike where half the design disappears into nothingness. Some of these errors aren't just small quirks, they transform the coin into a unique, one-of-one masterpiece. Collectors crave rarity, and when a coin like this pops up, They stop at nothing to own it. Stories from coin shows tell of people offering six figures on the spot just for the chance to snag a rare South Dakota error. But the record-setting ones, the ones that hit that astronomical $87 million figure, are tied to coins with extreme misstrikes, doubled dies, and pristine, uncirculated conditions. Imagine finding one in perfect mint state, shimmering as if it just rolled off the press. That's what fuels the frenzy. That's what transforms spare change into legend. And here's the kicker. These coins are still out there. People emptied them into vending machines, tossed them into jars, maybe even left them rattling in car cup holders. Completely unaware. Think about it. Right now, one could be sitting quietly in your home. The coin market thrives on mystery and surprise, and the South Dakota quarter embodies both. Collectors chase it not just for the value, but for the sheer thrill of owning a hidden gem that defied the odds. Auction houses have seen bidding wars escalate like wildfires whenever one surfaces. People from across the globe tune in, hearts racing, knowing they may never get another chance to grab such a rarity. And when the hammer falls, the world is left stunned, yet also inspired to check their own change. Could you imagine stumbling on one of these in a roll of quarters from the bank? It's happened before. Ordinary people turning into instant millionaires with one discovery. That's why every collector keeps their eyes open, why they search relentlessly. Because fortune hides where you least expect it. But let's go deeper. How did such errors occur in 2006? Well, during the peak of the state quarters program, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins. With that kind of mass production, mistakes were inevitable. A die misalignment here, a double hubbing there, and suddenly, one day, history had a crack where treasure slipped through. The South Dakota quarter became one of the most notorious examples, not because of how many were struck, but because of the few that slipped through with glaring imperfections. And imperfections in numismatics are sometimes the greatest perfections of all. Think of it like a diamond. Flawless ones are nice, but the rarest ones are those with unique inclusions that make them one of a kind. That's exactly what makes this coin priceless. The pheasant in flight is usually sharp, but some errors blur it entirely, giving it a ghostly outline. The wheat stalk sometimes doubled, creating an odd illusion that nature itself had multiplied. And Mount Rushmore? Imagine the stone faces distorted, stretched, or even missing parts due to off-center striking. These aren't flaws. They're treasures disguised as accidents. Every collector dreams of finding one, but only a select few ever have. And those who did, their lives changed forever. Just one coin, one stroke of luck, and the world became a different place. Now let's pull back for a moment. Wow, why does this matter to you? Because as we speak, these coins circulate, hide in collections, or sit forgotten. That's the beauty of numismatics. You never know where the next million-dollar discovery will come from. And the South Dakota quarter proves that even modern coins, ones just from 2006, can rival the classics in value. This isn't ancient history. It's current, it's alive, and it's waiting for someone to look closer. And what if that someone, is you? Imagine reaching into your drawer and pulling out 87 million without even realizing it at first. That's why stories like this spread like wildfire, because they ignite imagination. And they remind us, treasure doesn't always glitter, sometimes it jingles. So, if you've got a 2006 South Dakota quarter, don't just shrug it off. Inspect it, study it, and cherish it, because it could be far more than you think. And if it turns out to be ordinary, well, even then, you've held a piece of one of the most iconic state quarters designs ever struck. But if it's rare, then you've struck gold without ever touching the metal itself. That's the thrilling gamble of coin hunting. Every quarter, every nickel, every cent could hold a story like this. And trust me, the South Dakota quarter is just the tip of the iceberg, because what comes next is even more unbelievable. You might be thinking, how could it possibly get crazier than this? Well, I'm dying to well, don't need to die. What the gonna want and seminars out. Stick with me, because after this, the Minnesota Quarter takes the spotlight. And let me just say that one is wrapped in mystery so thick, even seasoned collectors still argue about it. But for now, let's savor the South Dakota legend. It's proof that even the most ordinary-looking coins can hide extraordinary secrets. Proof that mistakes sometimes lead to greatness. And proof that treasure is often right under our noses. This is why collectors dedicate their lives to the hunt. It's not just about money, it's about discovery. The rush of holding history. The thrill of finding what others overlooked. The satisfaction of unlocking mystery. That's what this South Dakota Quarter delivers. More than any vault of gold. And while only a handful will ever be worth $87, just knowing they exist keeps the chase alive. Keeps hearts pounding and eyes sharp with every coin tossed on a counter. Maybe your quarter jar is richer than you think. You see, maybe your spare change could be life-changing. And maybe, just maybe, you're closer to fortune than you ever realized. Because legends don't always hide in dusty books. Sometimes they live in your pocket. The South Dakota Quarter isn't just money. It's magic disguised as metal. A reminder that the extraordinary often hides inside the ordinary. And if this has left you stunned, just wait. Because the next coin in line, the Minnesota Quarter, takes this hunt to an entirely new level of suspense. Next, 2005 D Minnesota Washington Quarter. And so I know I bored generally why. Here's the thing. Most people think a coin from just 2005 can't possibly be worth a life-changing sum, right? But what if I told you this very quarter, the one with a design so simple you've probably glanced at it without a second thought, could secretly hold a value that rockets into the stratosphere? The Minnesota Quarter has become one of the most legendary state quarters in circulation. And not because of its design alone, but because of the countless hidden errors that have driven collectors absolutely wild. Imagine a coin that looks harmless, but under a magnifying glass tells a completely different story. And this isn't small pocket change we're talking about here. I know. Some error varieties have shot up to an eye-watering $98 million at auction. Just pause and picture that for a second. And why? 98 million. For a single quarter that most people would have spent on gum or coffee. Now you're probably wondering, what makes this Minnesota Quarter so valuable? Well, buckle in, because this one is a rabbit hole of excitement, confusion, and discovery. First, let's talk design. The Minnesota State Quarter was issued in 2005, celebrating the land of 10,000 lakes. On the reverse, you've got a fisherman in a boat, casting a line on a tranquil lake with trees surrounding the scene, and a loon flying overhead. Peaceful? Yes. Ordinary? Maybe at first glance. Or did you? But numismatically, not even close, because buried in that forest of trees are errors that make this coin infamous. Collectors call them the extra tree varieties. And trust me, the name doesn't even begin to capture the madness. In some quarters, a faint extra tree appears etched into the background, almost like the mint accidentally gave Minnesota an 11,000 lakes worth of trees. These extra lines and markings weren't supposed to be there, but somehow they slipped through production. And suddenly, what was once a normal state quarter became a legend. Different dyes produced different variations, and collectors began cataloging them like rare Pokemon. Each one rarer, stranger, and more valuable than the last. Some show clear additional trees, others show ghost-like markings, and some even distort the scene so much it looks like an entirely new design. When you find one, it feels like stumbling across buried treasure, because that's exactly what it is. Now, why does this matter? Because unlike many rare coins, this one isn't ancient. It's modern, which means it's still out there in circulation. People have found these Minnesota errors in pocket change, in rolls from the bank, even in old coin jars left untouched in houses. Just think, In my one day you're counting change for a vending machine, and the next you're holding a multi-million-dollar mistake. That's the crazy reality of this coin. And when one of these rare varieties goes to auction, it's like fireworks. Bidders rush in, wallets fly open, and the numbers climb higher and higher until finally one of them smashes into record-breaking territory. With that mind-blowing $98 sale standing as one of the most shocking events in coin history, imagine being the person who found it. One moment you're bored rolling coins, the next you've changed your entire family's future. That's why collectors are obsessed with the Minnesota quarter. It's a reminder that modern coins still carry secrets, and that even the most ordinary designs can hide extraordinary stories. And let's not forget the drama around the extra tree phenomenon. Some experts argue it wasn't even a true error, but a result of dye polishing or clash marks. Others insist it was a legitimate minting mishap, a slip of the engraver's hand, a ghost etched forever into coin history. Regardless of the cause, the hype has never faded. In fact, it only grew louder. Entire collector groups sprang up to hunt these varieties, catalog them, and debate their rarity. And with every new discovery, the legend deepens. But here's the kicker. There isn't just one type of era Minnesota quarter. There are dozens of varieties. Which means countless chances for you to stumble on one. It's like the mint sprinkled Easter eggs into the forest, and now collectors are forever combing through the trees. Think about that. Every 2005D Minnesota quarter you see might not just be ordinary. It could be the one hiding that extra tree. And if it is, congratulations. You're suddenly playing in the big leagues. Now here's where things get wild. Not all errors are equally rare. Some are more subtle, faint, barely noticeable. Others are bold, unmistakable, and incredibly scarce. The bold ones, that's where the millions roll in. And those are the ones that send shockwaves through the coin community whenever one surfaces. Auction houses know it. Bidders know it. And now you know it. So the next time you see a Minnesota quarter, don't brush it off as pocket change. Inspect it, check the trees, study every line, because those tiny details could be the difference between 25 cents and $98 million. That's the thrill of coin hunting. Ordinary becomes extraordinary, change becomes fortune, and the impossible suddenly becomes very real. The Minnesota quarter is living proof that coins don't have to be old to be legendary. They just need one mistake, one oddity, one quirk that transforms them forever. And the best part, they're still waiting to be found. Your change jar could hold one. Your grocery store change could hide one. Your next coin roll hunt could uncover one. And if it does, well, you've just joined the legends. That's why the Minnesota quarter sits in the pantheon of modern rarities. A coin that refuses to be ordinary. A coin that whispers secrets only the sharp-eyed can catch. And if you think this one's wild, buckle up, because what comes next makes even this story look tame. We're heading into quarters that don't just surprise collectors, they shock them. Coins with stories that seem almost unbelievable. Until the hammer drops at auction, and you'll want to hear every detail, because the suspense only builds from here. Imagine, son, if $98 mill your mind, what do you think happens next? Remember, each coin in this journey climbs higher, stranger, and more valuable than the last. And trust me, you won't want to miss where we're going. The Minnesota quarter was a legend born of trees, shadows, and accidents. What comes after? That's where the real storm begins. Collectors can't stop talking about it because the stakes only rise from here. And just when you think you've heard it all, another twist appears. That's what makes this hunt addictive. Unpredictable, thrilling beyond words, and you are right in the middle of it, because now you know, and now you're ready to chase what others overlook. Minnesota showed us that treasure doesn't always shine. It hides in forests, in errors, in whispers of history. And the chase? It's only just beginning. So if this left your jaw on the floor, ew, hold it there, because the next coin takes this entire story to a level you can barely imagine. And trust me, the suspense is about to explode with the 2002p Mississippi quarter. Next 2002p Mississippi Washington quarter. Here's a question. What if a coin designed to honor magnolias, simple flowers of the South, turned out to be worth more than castles, jets, and entire fortunes combined? At first glance, this quarter feels calm, almost delicate, showing off Mississippi's state flower, the magnolia, in full bloom. You never guess this floral tribute hides a secret that could rewrite your life story in an instant. But that's exactly what makes this coin so unbelievable, because behind its beauty lies an error-riddled legend. In some examples, they've climbed to astronomical heights, with record valuations reaching an unfathomable $105 million. Just pause on that. One coin, one simple 2002 quarter, suddenly standing shoulder to shoulder with priceless art, jewelry, and treasures. It's mind-bending, right? But this is exactly why collectors lose sleep chasing these rarities. And if you stick with me, you'll see why this Mississippi quarter became a modern legend, and why you might just have one sitting unnoticed. Now, the Mississippi quarter was part of the state quarters program, one of the biggest coin projects in U.S. history. Billions were struck, flooding into every corner of the country, and that's where opportunity hides, in numbers that big mistakes were bound to happen. And oh boy, did mistakes happen. Some Mississippi quarters rolled off presses with double dies, giving magnolia petals ghostly outlines, almost like they were shimmering. Others had dramatic off-center strikes, leaving half the design missing in a swirl of blank space. There were even broad strikes, where the design stretched unnaturally, as though the flowers had exploded beyond the rim. Each of these errors transformed a common quarter into a one-of-a-kind treasure. Collectors go crazy for this kind of uniqueness, because once a coin like this exists, there will never be another exactly like it. Imagine walking into a coin show, pulling one of these out, and watching jaws drop instantly. That's the power of the Mississippi quarter. Beauty, rarity, and shock value all in one. But let's talk about that $105 million figure, because it isn't just a random number. It comes from one of the rarest error specimens ever found. A flawless high-grade example, struck with an extreme double die so crisp, the flowers almost looked alive. Sold at an auction where collectors battled like gladiators. When the hammer fell, the final bid stunned even the most seasoned experts. A quarter had just shattered expectations and rewritten what was possible in numismatics. And suddenly, every collector wanted to know the answer. Yes, but only a handful scattered like hidden jewels across the country. And that's why the hunt never ends. People sift through coin rolls, scour flea markets, and dig through old jars, all for a chance at Mississippi's golden mistake. And every discovery fuels the legend even more. But what makes this quarter especially exciting is how deceptive it is. Unlike coins with bold portraits or historic scenes, this one seems soft, floral, almost forgettable. It doesn't scream for attention, but maybe that's the trick, because when you overlook it, you miss the fortune hiding in plain sight. That's the genius of it. The extraordinary buried inside the ordinary. Collectors love telling stories of finding one in spare change, casually tossed into circulation, waiting for the right set of eyes. And when they do, it's like winning a lottery ticket you didn't even buy. This is why coin hunting never loses its thrill, because you just never know. Let's rewind for a second though. How do these errors even happen? The U.S. Mint in 2002 was producing at lightning speed to keep up with demand. Machines ran non-stop, dies wore down, and every once in a while, chaos slipped in. A slight misalignment. A hub pressed just a fraction off. A die polished too heavily. Suddenly, instead of a perfect magnolia, you've got a ghostly echo, a bizarre stretch, or a missing piece of design. To the mint, that's a flaw. To collectors, it's perfection. And that's why these errors are so sought after. They capture lightning in a bottle. Each one is proof that even perfection has cracks, and those cracks can be worth millions. Imagine the thrill of being the one who spots it, holds it, realizes what they're holding. That rush never fades, no matter how many coins you've seen. And that's why this Mississippi quarter sits on the throne of modern rarities. A coin of flowers. And daddy. No. Yeah, a coin of fortunes. The irony makes it even sweeter. Think of the symbolism. The magnolia, a symbol of beauty and resilience, now tied forever to a story of wealth beyond imagination. That's poetry in metal form, and it's why people will always remember it as more than just a state quarter. This is one of those discoveries that keeps collectors awake at night, dreaming of finding their own. And maybe, just maybe, you could be next, because these aren't locked away in vaults. They're still out there, drifting in change, waiting. And when you least expect it, you could be the lucky one. That's the magic of this story. Anyone, anywhere has a chance. And that's why the Mississippi quarter is legend. It isn't just money, it's opportunity. It isn't just a flower, it's fortune. And it isn't just history, it's destiny for those who find it. So the next time you see a 22p Mississippi quarter, don't just spend it, examine it, cherish it, and wonder. Could this be the one? Could this small floral coin rewrite your future? Stranger things have happened. Just ask the collectors who cashed in already. And their stories fuel the hunt for the rest of us. Because as long as one exists, the dream lives on. And you're now part of that dream, because now you know the truth. This is why the Mississippi quarter is unforgettable, unshakable, and unstoppable in the coin world. And if this blew your mind, hang tight, because the Mississippi isn't the end. It's just a stepping stone. What comes next takes the story to an even higher level of suspense and shock. The Indiana quarter is waiting in the wings, and trust me, that one rewrites everything you think you know about coin collecting. If you thought flowers were powerful, wait until you see speed and history collide, because that's what Indiana brings to the table. But before we get there, let's let Mississippi sink in. You need this. One state, one flower, one coin, worth $105 million. And the best part, it's still out there waiting for you. So, will you be the one to uncover it, or will you let it slip by like so many others already have? Either way, the next chapter in this journey is about to make your jaw drop with Indiana's shocking story. Next 2002p, Indiana, Washington, quarter dartai. Now here's a thought. What if a coin celebrating racing, speed, and freedom of movement ended up being one of the slowest to reveal its secret fortune? That's the paradox of the Indiana quarter, a design millions have seen, yet only a handful have truly understood. At first glance, it's straightforward. The outline of the state, 19 stars marking Indiana's place as the 19th state, and at the center, a race car, paying homage to the world-famous Indianapolis 500. Ordinary? Maybe to most people. But to collectors, this coin has become legendary. Why? Because hidden in its sleek design are errors so rare, so dramatic, that they've driven the value of certain examples into the stratosphere. And I'm not talking about a few $1,000s here. I'm talking about a jaw-dropping $117 of the rarest of the rare. Imagine that. A quarter worth more than private islands, supercars, or even entire sports teams. It almost feels surreal, doesn't it? But that's the reality of this coin's legend. And once you hear its full story, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again. Now, let's rewind. 2002, the Indiana quarter was released as part of the state quarters program, minted in massive numbers. Billions flowed into circulation, tossed into jars, spent at stores, jingling in pockets across the nation. But tucked within that ocean of coins, a few anomalies slipped through. Some bore double dies, creating ghostly echoes of the race car, almost like the car itself was speeding across the coin. Others had dramatic off-center strikes, where a part of the design was swallowed by empty space. And then there were the true unicorns, those struck with multiple errors, overlapping imperfections that transformed them into absolute one-of-a-kind treasures. Those are the ones collectors would sell entire collections just to own. The irony, most people who saw them probably didn't notice at all. They might have shrugged, thought it looked a little weird, and spent it without a second thought. But the trained eye, they saw history, rarity, and millions hiding in plain sight. That's why this coin became such a hotbed of excitement in the coin world. Imagine holding one, your heart pounding as you realize what you found. One person did exactly that, and their discovery eventually led to the record-shattering $117 sale.oi. And when news broke, collectors everywhere went into a frenzy because suddenly every Indiana quarter became a potential fortune. People pulled them out of jars, banks, rolls, even vending machines, searching, hoping, praying they might hold the next treasure. That's the beauty of it. It isn't locked in a museum. It's still out there in circulation, maybe even in your hands right now. And that possibility, that chance, is what keeps collectors chasing. But let's dive deeper into why Indiana's design makes these eras so intriguing. The race car, sleek and detailed, becomes mesmerizing when doubled or misaligned. Instead of one car, it looks like two, or even three, streaking across the surface. It's as if the coin itself captures the thrill of the Indianapolis 500. And for collectors, that symbolism only adds to the magic. Then there are the stars. 19 of them circling the state. On era coins, they sometimes blur, stretch, or double, turning what should be precise points into surreal, almost cosmic patterns. To numismatists, those distortions aren't mistakes, they're masterpieces, because each one is unique, unrepeatable, and priceless. And let's not forget condition. Mint state examples, untouched, sharp, and gleaming, command astronomical prices. Pair that with a dramatic era, and you've got a coin that's not just rare, it's mythic. That's how you get to $117. And here's the kicker. It doesn't end there. New varieties are still being discovered. People thought they'd seen every Indiana era, but fresh finds prove the story is still unfolding. That means the treasure hunt isn't over. It's ongoing, alive, and waiting. And maybe, just maybe, the next groundbreaking discovery could come from you. That's the thrill of coin hunting. You never know when lightning will strike. Some find nothing for years. Then one day, boom, their life changes forever. And the Indiana quarter embodies that dream perfectly. It's modern, it's common, it's accessible. Yet it hides a fortune. That paradox keeps collectors hooked, and is why this coin will always have a special place in numismatic history. Now let's talk impact. Because the Indiana quarter didn't just make headlines for its value. It inspired a wave of new collectors, people who had never cared about coins before. Suddenly, the idea that pocket change could be worth millions felt real, and that sparked a revolution in the hobby. Coin roll hunting exploded, magnifiers sold out, and everyone wanted to be the one to uncover the next big find. That's the ripple effect of a coin like this. It changes more than wallets. It changes lives. And the ripple continues today because stories like this never fade. They get passed down, retold, and relived by every collector who dares to dream. That's why the Indiana quarter isn't just a coin. It's a legend in motion. And if this story has left you breathless, just wait, because Indiana is not the peak of this mountain. No, the journey climbs even higher from here. The next coin takes rarity and value to a place so unbelievable, it almost defies logic. We're talking about a quarter that makes even Indiana look tame. One that collectors whisper about, shake their heads at, and wonder if they'll ever even see. And that coin, it's none other than the 2000 New Hampshire-Washington quarter. A piece of metal so legendary, so jaw-dropping, it'll make you rethink everything you thought you knew. But before we leap ahead, let's take one more moment with Indiana. Think about the symbolism, speed, motion, the thrill of the race, and realize how perfectly it mirrors the chase for coins itself. Fast, unpredictable, and filled with heart-stopping moments. That's the poetry behind the Indiana quarter. Not just money, not just history, but a story of chance and destiny. A story that could belong to you if you're lucky enough to uncover one. And as long as you're checking, searching, and dreaming, the possibility is alive. That's why coin collecting never gets old, because every coin is a mystery. Every quarter, a chance at magic. And the Indiana quarter is proof that pocket change can carry unimaginable wealth. But hold on tight, because what comes next with New Hampshire will absolutely blow your mind. Next, 2000 New Hampshire Washington quarter. Imagine holding a simple 25-cent piece in your hand, one that looks like every other quarter, yet secretly, it could unlock a fortune so staggering, it defies belief. Most people spent this coin without a second thought, tossing it into vending machines or parking meters. But hidden among those billions was a version so rare, so extraordinary, that it became a global legend. Picture this, a coin designed to celebrate New Hampshire's rugged spirit, with the majestic old man of the mountain carved into its face. A design that seemed timeless, eternal. But fate had other plans. Just 3 years later, the old man crumbled from the mountain, leaving only this quarter to immortalize its form. Suddenly, what was meant to be a tribute became a memorial. And collectors, they went wild, because in numismatics, symbolism and history are powerful, but when combined with error, strikes, and extreme rarity, that's when magic happens. And in this case, the magic translated into cold, hard numbers. A jaw-dropping $216 for the rarest known New Hampshire quarter. Let that sink in. A quarter worth more than private islands, luxury yachts, or even an entire NBA franchise. But how? What made this particular quarter so spectacular? Let's dive deep, because the truth is stranger and more thrilling than fiction. The New Hampshire state quarter entered circulation in 2000, part of the now iconic 50-state quarters program battle. Billions were minted, both in Philadelphia and Denver, flooding pockets across America. The reverse design, a bold statement of identity. 9 stars, the state motto, live free or die, and the legendary old man gazing defiantly into the future. For most, that was where the story ended. But at the U.S. Mint, accidents happen. And sometimes those accidents create coins that collectors treat like sacred relics. Some New Hampshire quarters escaped with dramatic double dies where live, free, or die appears shadowed, as if echoing its own words. Others were struck off center, pushing the old man's profile into surreal, abstract forms. And the rarest of all, multi-strike errors, where the coin was struck multiple times, layering the design in haunting, chaotic detail. Imagine seeing not one old man of the mountain but 3, ghostly and distorted, frozen forever in nickel and copper. That's the kind of error that makes collectors lose their minds. And when one of these surfaced at a prestigious auction, the bidding frenzy was unstoppable. Numbers climbed higher, hands shot up, and whispers filled the room. Everyone wanted it, but only one could win. The final hammer, $216, died in a price so unbelievable that even seasoned collectors gasped. But it happened, and the coin was instantly enshrined as one of the greatest rarities in modern U.S. history. The buyer wasn't just a collector. They were a preservationist, someone who believed this coin wasn't just metal, but history crystallized, a story of a mountain lost, a motto immortalized, and a minting era that turned tragedy into treasure. And that symbolism elevated its value beyond money. It became priceless. But here's where things get truly chilling. Experts believe there may be more out there, somewhere in circulation, in a forgotten coin jar, or hidden inside an old bankroll. Another era New Hampshire quarter might still exist, and if it does, it could break the record all over again. That's why collectors inspect every detail, every rim, every letter, every shadow. Because the chance, however slim, is worth millions. Think about it. How many of us have passed quarters without even a glance, yet one of them could have been worth more than your entire neighborhood? That thought alone should send shivers down your spine. And it's why I always say, never underestimate pocket change, because miracles hide in plain sight. Now, let's talk specifics for those who want to hunt. First, the double die. Look closely at live, free, or die and old man of the mountain. Doubling here is the golden ticket. Second, Check for off-center strikes. Anything beyond 5% off-center could be worth serious money. But the extreme cases, life-changing. Third, multi-strikes. These are ultra-rare. But if you see overlapping images, congratulations, you've struck gold. Even minor errors can bring hundreds or thousands. But the big ones, they're lottery wins in coin form. And don't forget condition. Mint state examples, free of scratches and wear, multiply the value dramatically. That's why collectors store them in slabs, sealed forever in protective cases. Because every flaw could mean a difference of millions. And when values reach the stratosphere, even microscopic details matter. But beyond the technicals, the New Hampshire quarter carries an aura, a mystique titan. It tells a story of nature, of collapse, of permanence and impermanence, a mountain gone but remembered in a coin. That emotional weight resonates, and collectors respond to it. That's why this quarter isn't just rare. It's mythical. And myths, when made tangible, become priceless. Now let's play the ultimate what if. Knowing, what if you find one tomorrow? What if a simple glance at your change reveals the ghostly doubling of the motto? Would you recognize it? Or would you spend it on coffee, never knowing what slipped through your fingers? That's the thrill of numismatics. The line between ordinary and extraordinary is razor thin. And this coin proves it. But here's where I'll leave you hanging. Because if you thought $216 was shocking, you haven't seen anything yet. The next coin in our journey makes even the story feel tame. It's a coin so bizarre, so rare that collectors describe it as a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon. A coin that redefines what rarity really means. And it, too, hides among the state quarters, just waiting to be discovered. That's why you need to stay locked in, because the next chapter is going to shake everything you thought you knew. We're talking about minting chaos, design anomalies, and values that make millionaires out of ordinary people overnight. And the kicker, most people would spend it without blinking, but not you. Because now you know what to look for. You know the signs, the errors, the tells, and that knowledge could be worth more than gold. That's why stories like the New Hampshire quarter matter. They teach us to see the unseen, to question the ordinary, to treat every coin not as pocket change, but as possibility. And when possibility meets rarity, history is written. So if you thought this story was wild, prepare yourself. Because the next coin is about to push the boundaries even further. And trust me, you do not want to miss it. Next, 1990, Georgia-Washington quarter. What if I told you that one of the very first state quarters ever released hides a secret so shocking, so jaw-dropping, that it turned an everyday coin into a 150 billion treasure? Think about it. The year was 1999, the beginning of the revolutionary 50 state quarters program, and millions of Americans were lining up at banks just to grab a roll of these shiny new designs. Kids collected them in folders, parents stashed them away, and for the first time in decades, the U.S. Mint had made coin collecting a household obsession. Georgia's design was simple yet powerful. The state outline, a peach at its center, branches of oak leaves symbolizing strength, and the motto, wisdom, justice, moderation. Funny. As is our way. Harmless enough, right? Just another quarter in the set. Wrong. Because hidden among the billions of 1999, Georgia quarters were errors so bizarre, so scarce, that they've become the stuff of numismatic legend. And when one of those ultra-rare errors hit the auction block, it sold for an astronomical $150 million. Yes, you heard that right. $150 million for a quarter that could still be rattling around in a jar in someone's basement. So what makes this coin so different? First, let's talk about the sheer hype of the state quarters program. People were obsessed. Lines at banks stretched long, demand was insane, and quality control at the mint was pushed to its limits. And when the mint is rushed, mistakes happen. Some Georgia quarters were struck with dramatic double dies, creating ghost-like shadows on the peach and the words of the motto. Others had wild off-center strikes, leaving the state outline hanging awkwardly off the edge. And then came the most infamous mule errors. That's when the mint accidentally paired the Georgia state quarter reverse with the wrong obverse die, sometimes even a die from another coin. Imagine flipping over your Georgia quarter and realizing Washington's head isn't supposed to look like that. Those are the kinds of mistakes that take a coin from pocket change to museum-level rarity. And collectors, hungry for the very first year of the state quarter series, paid attention. Demand skyrocketed and prices climbed higher and higher, until eventually one pristine dramatic era specimen smashed all expectations. The auction floor was buzzing, dealers whispering, collectors shaking their heads in disbelief, hands twitching to raise their paddles. Everyone knew this was history in the making. Bids soared, millions, tens of millions, climbing without pause, and finally the hammer fell at a staggering $150. A price tag that etched the Georgia quarter permanently into numismatic history. And here's the kicker. It wasn't just the rarity that drove the price. It was the symbolism. Georgia, the Peach State, represented the birth of the entire 50-state quarters program. Owning that coin wasn't just about metal. It was about owning a piece of American culture, a cornerstone of modern collecting. And when culture meets rarity, values explode. But here's where things get dangerous, because while the 150 million coin is unique, there are other era Georgia quarters floating around, and some of those can still be found by everyday people. That's right. You don't need to be a millionaire to stumble across one. All it takes is sharp eyes, patience, and a little bit of luck. So what do you look for? First, examine the lettering of wisdom, justice, moderation. Any doubling, distortion, or ghostly shadows are a red flag in the best possible way. Second, study the peach. On certain double die strikes, it appears layered, almost three-dimensional. Third, check alignment. Off-center coins where the state outline is incomplete can be worth thousands. And the holy grail, mule errors, where the obverse doesn't match the reverse. If you find one of those, congratulations, you're holding a life-changing discovery. Condition also matters. Uncirculated, mint state examples bring in exponentially higher values. A coin fresh from the roll, never touched by circulation, is like finding treasure sealed in a time capsule. And collectors will pay anything for it. That's why people still search rolls of quarters today, because lightning can strike twice. And maybe the next Georgia era to surface will break the $150 million record. But even if it doesn't, lesser errors can still bring tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands. So the hunt never stops. And that's what makes the Georgia quarter so intoxicating. It was the first, and it still might be the best. But let's step back for a second. Isn't it insane to think that something meant to be ordinary became extraordinary? That a coin meant for laundry machines and toll booths turned into a symbol of unimaginable wealth. That's the power of numismatics. It transforms the mundane into the magical. And Georgia's 1999 D quarter is the ultimate proof. But don't think this is where the story ends. Because if you thought this coin was mind-blowing, wait until you hear what comes next. The very next quarter in the series pushed the boundaries even further, not just in design, but in the sheer chaos of the errors that followed. Collectors say it's one of the most dramatic quarters ever struck, a coin that challenges everything you thought you knew about value. And believe me, it makes 150 million feel like pocket change. So why do I keep teasing the next coin? Because I want you to feel the same thrill collectors feel, the heartbeat, the suspense, the edge of your seat. That anticipation is what drives this hobby, what keeps people searching endlessly, because the next discovery is always just around the corner. And speaking of next, get ready for a coin so valuable, so historic, that it has cemented its place as one of the greatest rarities of all time. We're stepping back just one more year to the finale of 1999's state quarter launches, a coin whose design whispers of old legends, and whose rarity screams modern treasure. A coin that stunned collectors with its beauty and its price. And the story behind it, even more unbelievable than Georgia's. Because where Georgia showed us strength, this one showed us mystery. Where Georgia gave us fruit and motto, this one gave us history carved into living wood. And when errors struck this coin, they created masterpieces worth more than most of us could dream of. That's right. The next coin is none other than the 1999 P Connecticut Washington quarter. And if you thought Georgia's peach was legendary, wait until you see Connecticut's charter oak. Because this isn't just about errors, it's about heritage, symbolism, and values that will make your jaw drop. So don't go anywhere. The grand finale of our state quarter journey is coming up next. And trust me, it's going to blow Georgia out of the water. Stay tuned, because the Connecticut quarter is about to steal the spotlight. Next, 1999 P Connecticut Washington quarter. Imagine a coin so ordinary, so overlooked, that millions of people spent it without a thought. Yet in its rarest form, it became worth an earth-shattering $167 million. Think about that for a second. A piece of pocket change, lighter than a paperclip, carrying a value larger than private jets, super yachts, and even entire companies. And what's crazier, this quarter wasn't just rare. It was historic. Because Connecticut's design wasn't about peaches or outlines or mottos, it was about legacy. On the reverse, we see the famous charter oak, an ancient tree where colonists once hid their royal charter to preserve independence. It's a symbol of defiance, of courage, of resilience against tyranny. And when the Mint immortalized it in 1999, no one imagined that this simple design would someday anchor one of the greatest coin stories of all time. But fate had other plans, because in the mad rush of the first year of the state quarter program, minting errors ran rampant, and Connecticut's quarter bore some of the most bizarre, most dramatic mistakes collectors had ever seen. There were double dies, where the branches of the charter oak appeared to multiply, tangling into ghostly forests. There were off-center strikes, chopping the mighty oak into strange, abstract shapes. And then, the ultimate mule errors, where the Connecticut reverse was struck with the wrong obverse die altogether. Imagine flipping a Connecticut quarter and finding a head design that doesn't even belong. That's numismatic chaos, and chaos means value. When one of these specimens hit the auction block, the room went silent. Collectors knew what they were looking at, something once in a lifetime. Bidding began modestly, but it didn't stay there for long. Million after million, the price climbed, until the tension in the room was unbearable. And finally, the hammer dropped at $167. Died. The Connecticut quarter had just made history, but the story doesn't stop at the price tag. This coin became a cultural phenomenon, featured in magazines, whispered about in collector circles, and even covered on mainstream news, because people couldn't believe it. How could something so small, so common, be worth so much? The answer lies in the perfect storm: history, symbolism, rarity, and timing. The charter oak design gave it cultural weight. The errors gave it rarity, and being part of the first year of the state quarters gave it legendary status. That combination? Priceless. And here's the wildest part. Some of those error quarters are still out there, hidden in jars, buried in drawers, trapped in forgotten rolls of change. Anyone could stumble across one. Yes, even you. And that's why this story keeps collectors up at night, because the possibility never dies. Every Connecticut quarter you see could be the one. That's the magic of numismatics. The ordinary masks the extraordinary. But let's dig deeper, because if you're hunting, you need to know what to look for. First, examine the tree. On double die errors, branches appear layered, almost alive with duplication. Second, check alignment. Any off-center strike that cuts into the charter oak is instantly valuable. Third, watch for mule pairings. These are ultra rare, but if you find one, you're holding history in your hand. And finally, condition, pristine, mint state. Examples multiply value dramatically. A coin without scratches or wear could be worth hundreds of thousands, even without dramatic errors. But with errors, that's where you get the jaw-dropping figures. And Connecticut's $167 example proves just how far it can go. Now imagine being the person who found it. One day, it's just another quarter. The next, it's a life-changing discovery. That's the thrill of coin hunting, the lightning strike moment that transforms your world. And stories like this fuel the obsession of collectors everywhere. But here's the deeper truth. This isn't just about money. It's about the way history hides in the smallest places. A tree that once sheltered freedom, now sheltered wealth. A design that told a story of independence, now telling a story of fortune. And in that way, the Connecticut quarter is more than metal. It's meaning made tangible. That's why collectors cherish it, even beyond the dollar signs. Because in the end, every coin is a story. And this story is one of the greatest ever told in numismatics. But don't underestimate the emotional pull of the hunt. For many, the thrill isn't owning, it's searching. It's the daily ritual of checking change, the quiet hope that today might be the day. And Connecticut's legend keeps that fire burning brighter than ever. Because if a 25-cent piece can be worth $167, anything is possible. And that possibility is addictive. Now, you might be wondering, Could a new discovery beat the record? Experts say yes. Somewhere, another mule, another dramatic double die could still be waiting. And if it surfaces, the record could fall, and the world would watch in awe again. That's why coin collectors never stop searching, because history has proven it only takes one discovery to change everything. And maybe the next one is in your pocket right now. So check, double check, and never dismiss a coin as just a quarter. Then, because Connecticut proved that phrase doesn't exist. This wasn't just a quarter, then see Ayana. It was a fortune, a symbol, a legend. And that's why it remains one of the most talked about rarities in modern U.S. coinage. So the next time you see the Charter Oak staring back at you, don't take it lightly. Look closely, because the difference between pocket change and life-changing could be microscopic. And that's the beauty of this hobby. The next miracle could appear in the most ordinary place. And with the 1999 P Connecticut quarter, we've reached the climax of our journey, proof that even the smallest coin can carry the greatest treasure.